everyone. I'm here today to talk about intercultural communications, its importance, some of the basic concepts, and my top tips based on my experiences so far for you to be able to work effectively as a research support staff of culturally diverse and international projects. Firstly, I would like to introduce myself. I am Mary Caspilio Brewer. I work at the Institute for Global Health at University College London as a research coordinator providing cradle to grave research administration support to academics and researchers. I have been at UCL for over 3 years and I am originally from the Philippines. I've never traveled outside the Philippines until I was 23 when I received a scholarship, a 2 year scholarship to study in an international university in Thailand. My classmates and professors, when I was doing my master's, come from Southeast Asia, from Thailand, Vietnam, Myanmar, and South Asia, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, and India. And when I was doing my master's, I was also teaching English to Thai kids in Bangkok. And that's when I met my husband, my British husband, in 2005. I lived in Thailand until 2009, and then I immigrated to the UK in 2010. I am now a naturalized British citizen. As I have said earlier, I've worked at UCL for over 3 years, and my colleagues from the Institute for Global Health come from different countries and cultures. I work with Americans, Mexican, South African, Swedish, African, and Indian colleagues. All our projects are based overseas, mostly in developing countries, in South Asia and Africa. I work closely with project partners, especially finance officers, in dealing with quarterly financial reports and arranging project meetings and events. So it is very important that in order for me to be effective in my role as a research coordinator, I understand the different cultural differences and diversities of my colleagues and our project collaborators. So, how do we define intercultural communication? It is a form of communication that aims to share information across different cultures and social groups. Another commonly used term is cross cultural communication, but most often the most important aspects are common sense and discrete observation. And the key to cross cultural success is to understand and have respect for cultural differences. In the next three slides, I will elaborate more on practical examples on how to build intercultural relationship with colleagues from different cultural backgrounds. Greetings. Take notice of how people greet and address each other in the other culture and adopt this custom. For example, in Thailand, they like to do this when they greet people. Sawadi. In India and Nepal, they say Namaste. In France, they would give you a peck on the cheek, and most Western countries, a handshake would do. Form of greetings. Do some research beforehand on how you should address the other party. I learned early on as a student never to call my South Asian professor by the first names. The Thais and the Southeast Asians also like to be called using the titles, such as Dr. Cruz, Professor Zhu Wei Jing. I always address our senior collaborators with their titles, regardless of whether I have known them for a long time. Dress code. Find out whether your counterparts expect you to dress informally or formally. In some cultures, informal dress implies a lack of concern for the business being discussed. When you are visiting a foreign country, make sure that you do your research before traveling to know appropriate clothes to wear in business meetings. Some countries in Asia require you to wear a headscarf and appropriate dress as a woman. Gift giving. Are gifts expected in business meetings? In some cultures, gifts must be taken, or the other person may assume that the meeting is of little importance. However, in other cultures, gifts could be considered as bribes. As a rule, I always bring a box of chocolates since that couldn't really do any harm when visiting our project collaborators based in Asia and Africa. And if our project collaborator visits me and give me a gift, I accept and thank them for it. Touching. Is touching a different no no? are some levels of body contact allowed or expected. For example, cheek kissing in France is acceptable, while a slap on the back in China would be frowned upon. This is where you need to be observant and to do your research before meeting your foreign colleague for the first time. Eye contact. Direct eye contact is considered rude in some cultures, so make sure you are aware of where this applies. So be observant and do your research before meeting a project collaborator for the first time. Personal space. People from more formal cultures tend to prefer a lot of personal space and feel extremely uncomfortable if someone moves in too close. As a rule, I always make sure that I'm conscious of space when I am meeting them for the first time. Punctuality. Punctuality is important in the US, in the UK, and in Scandinavian countries where time is regarded as precious and not to be wasted. If you are working with collaborators from other countries, it might be useful to clarify the issue of punctuality and the importance of starting face to face meetings and teleconferences on time. I like this photograph of President Barack Obama meeting the Emperor and Empress of Japan, which depicts what intercultural communication is all about. A basic understanding of cultural diversity is the key to effective intercultural communication. Seeing people from their cultural perspective will give you a better idea of who they are and not what you think they are. So, my top tips: firstly, keep an open mind at all times, focusing on what you hear and not what you see. Admire and respect other cultures, as we can learn a lot from others. Recognize your own cultural biases and how it is different from the people that you are dealing with. Be aware of how you act around people. Some jokes, words, expressions, or phrases may be offensive to people with a different background from you. Cultures and customs vary from one person to another. Pay attention to everything, from the tone of your voice, your gestures, in order to increase your understanding. Language. Avoid using slang, jargons, and acronyms. But if you need to, you have to give clear explanations of what you were talking about and talk about one topic at a time. And lastly, practice. The more you communicate with other people, the better you will become at it. I hope you learned a few things today about intercultural communication that you can apply in your role as a research administrator. I will leave you with a quote from Kofi Annan, the former Secretary General of the United Nations. He said, "People of different religions and cultures live side by side in almost every part of the world, and most of us have overlapping identities which unite us with very different groups. We can love what we are without hating what and who we are not. We can thrive in our own tradition, even as we learn from others and to come to respect their teachings."